Hello, and welcome to MoJo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the one and only Powerpuff Girls / JoJo's Bizarre Adventure recap and discussion podcast. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison.
Today we are going to be discussing the JoJo Phantom Blood episodes, The Dark Knights, and Tomorrow's Courage. I don't believe there is any new PPG news or JoJo news. We still don't have Steel Ball Run confirmed to have a release date or anything yet. So
The village of Wind's Night Lot has a castle end village with a population of 517. Farmers are harvesting with scythes. Speedwagon wants to learn the Haman way of fighting. A boy runs off with their money up a mountain. They want to use him as a guide. Zeppeli walks on water. JoJo hits the mountain and causes the boy to fall. Suddenly, it is night, and they realize they are on a graveyard. Dio is there, and the dead crawl out. Speedwagon is sweating. Dio can attack while it's dark. The boy's name is Poco. They punch the living dead and they disintegrate. Zeppeli tells Dio to come down and be face to face. Dio has healed from drinking lots of blood. Zeppeli punches Dio, and at first his Haman moves up Dio's arm, but then Dio somehow begins freezing Zeppeli. Dio freezes the blood in his arm. Dio has powers they know not. JoJo steps in with Poco on his back. Dio is too powerful. They fall. Dio was able to remove the moisture from JoJo's hand, and Zeppeli may lose his arm to gangrene. Dio starts an earthquake, which is more of the dead Viking-looking guys rising. Poco runs to safety. Dio tells the dead to destroy JoJo, Zeppeli, and Speedwagon. Zeppeli needs to warm his arm. Speedwagon warms it. JoJo says, "Sunlight Yellow Overdrive." Tarukas and Blueford are knights from Mary, Queen of Scots' time. Mary's husband was killed and Elizabeth blamed Mary. Mary was imprisoned. The knights give their lives for Mary, but she was already dead. They are beheaded. The one had a really thick neck, and it took several chops of the axe, or they went through several axes chopping off his head, and the other one has like hair that can strangle. Now Blueford and Tarukas have sworn to fight for Dio. JoJo calls forth Scarlet Overdrive. Another zombie pops up. Blueford wants to fight JoJo on his own. Blueford's hair wields his sword. JoJo falls into water. Tarukas stops Zeppeli and Speedwagon from interfering. JoJo needs to breathe. Dio wants to kill every citizen of the town. JoJo swims deeper. He thinks there is air under the rocks because it was a coal mining town. Turquoise blue overdrive. He needs to breathe to produce Haman.
I know the shouting out the tax. I know it kills you. It's pretty like I said, it's pretty standard anime fare to like shout out the name of your attack.
I mean, I guess I just can't really tell the difference between them, or like, yeah. I guess that's the biggest thing. If it was like, the blue one's air power or something, or like, I don't know. Or like he's using the power of an actual like piece of turquoise or something, it would make more sense. And like I don't think the other dude Zeppeli ever talked about like colors when they're fighting with the Hamans.
No, it's just like zoom punch.
So I just don't understand all of a sudden him doing these blue turquoise.
It could be something he learned during like the week that they trained because they didn't really show that much. Or maybe Zeppeli like encouraged him to come up with names for his attacks. I don't know. So Zeppeli did attempt to teach Speedwagon a little bit of Haman training, but when he went to correct his breathing, it hurt Speedwagon instead. And kind of given the relationship, I'm not sure if he did that on accident or on purpose. I feel like they don't really like each other until Speedwagon uses his body heat to like help heat up Zeppelin's arm.
Yeah, that part was weird. At first, I didn't know what was happening, and he just kind of like put it up against his bare, like, abdomen skin or whatever.
Yeah, they
But
lifted it up and they're like, and he's ripped too.
but I thought maybe he had cut himself open and was putting the arm like into his guts or something, the way it was described at first.
Yeah, because he talked about in the Arctic, the scientists or whoever would combat frostbite by like cutting open a seal and like sticking their limbs in there or something.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought that was happening at first. And then the way they kept going, but Speedwagon, like he was sacrificing himself at first, and then I'm like, he's just putting it up against his bare skin. Like, okay. That's kind of the least someone could offer to do.
Yeah. It's just gonna make him cold now. And he's not really, I mean, he can fight a little bit, which he did with his gang on Ogre Street, but he can't really fight this battle because he apparently does not have the disposition for Haman or something. So, like, it's not like he was even taking him out of the fight, really. He was helping put someone else back into it.
Yeah. I hope my description made sense. I'm trying to make sure I say each person's name so it's clear who I'm talking about. Because I feel like it can get confusing when you're just reading a description, like who's doing what.
Yeah, and there's a lot of just mostly dudes during this part. So you can't just go like, and then he did this, because then it's like, which he?
And was it that the Poco had been hypnotized or something to cause, like, to, I guess, to steal their money and then climb that mountain to sort of distract them? Is that what was
Yeah,
going on?
yeah, yes. That's why he didn't know where he was when he kind of like woke up in JoJo's arms. Gonna say also then when they get there, Zeppeli is just like disgusted by Dio, and he like asks him how many like innocent people did he like drain to like restore himself, and then Dio's like, well, how much bread have you eaten in a lifetime? Like, he's just like so dismissive of human life already, and he's barely been a vampire.
Yeah, and he had, I think, one scar left. So he wanted to drink from them, Zeppeli and JoJo and Speedwagon, and I guess the little boy, so he could heal that last scar. I'm not sure if he's killed the entire village already or what.
He's trying to. He's trying his darndest. Also, I need to look up, I forgot to do this, if those knights, if that's actually a thing, or if it was just made up for the show, because I've never heard of Charukas and Bluford. Though on the Wikipedia, I'm assuming in the originally they were called Tarkus and Bruford. So I don't know if that is possibly a reference to something. That's why they changed the name, or if it just made more sense to call them that. Like it made more sense for localization purposes, or if that's actually these dudes existed and that was what they were called. So that's kind of on me because I forgot to look it up. But anyways. All right. So, next I'm going to talk about the next episode, Tomorrow's Courage, which picks up right where the Dark Knights ended. Force of the turquoise blue overdrive knocks Bluford back up onto the bank, but it wasn't a direct hit, so he wasn't very badly injured. Bluford calls upon Dio, and I believe he thanked him for this new chance at life. JoJo calls him out for using his hair to do all the fighting and challenges him to face his Hamon dead on. Bluford catches and tangles JoJo up in his hair. Zeppeli says JoJo has no hope to use his Hamon with his limbs all tied up, but JoJo is able to burst free from the hair and conducts Hamon into Bluford's sword with his legs and disintegrates Bluford's sword arm. However, even with his missing arm, Bluford is a powerful enemy. This pain is nothing, Bluford declares, and JoJo realizes Bluford can feel pain again because of the Hamon sent through his body. JoJo explains that he didn't dodge Bluford's latest attack because he could still feel good in him, and then Bluford laments that he lives again even as he is dying. and bequeaths his sword luck to JoJo because he just thinks JoJo is such a powerful and honorable warrior. He cuts his finger and writes a P on the sword and renames it Pluck first before giving it to JoJo, and then the rest of his body disintegrates. Before JoJo can fully process Bluford's nobleness, he is set upon by Tarukas, the larger and stronger of the two knights. Tarukas is strong enough to cleave off part of the cliff JoJo, Zeppeli, Poco, and Speedwagon are on. JoJo and Zeppeli use their Hamon and leaves and kind of use them as a hang glider. Speedwagon and Poco inquire about how Zeppeli learned Hamon, and Zeppeli remembers how he went to India and learned of Hamon from a young doctor. He sought out the doctor's mentor, Tonpetty, who tells Zeppeli that he will teach him Hamon, but it will one day cause his death. Zeppeli thinks to himself how he must keep Tonpetty's prophecy to himself and not reveal his fate to JoJo. Tarukas leaps into the air after them, and they touch down on the Knights' training grounds. Tarukas crashes into a wall, and they think he must have died from the impact, but he simply decided to burst into the training grounds first. JoJo gets after Tarukas, but Tarukas forces JoJo into a chain neck death match in which, according to the JoJo wiki, the two fighters have been bound by an iron shackle around the neck, and one must decapitate the other in order to free himself. JoJo cannot breathe because of the collar, giving Tarukas the upper hand. According to Speedwagon, the two combatants are locked up tighter than a nunnery in the training grounds. Poco sees a narrow window and realizes that if JoJo is to survive the battle, he must overcome his fears to save him. Speedwagon and Zeppeli are horrified, thinking that the boy will be killed and want to try and stop him. But Poco is determined because he wants to save his sister and his town. He gets through the window and is slammed into the wall by Tarukas, but still has the strength to pull a lever to open the chamber door. The boy will heal, says Zeppeli. Zeppeli goes into the training grounds and recalls Tonpetty's prophecy once more, realizing that this might be the day that he dies. Determined, he marches in and makes his way to Tarukas and JoJo.
I'm not sure Poco's gonna make it.
He's a very small boy.
But where they originally learned the Haman, that guy was using it as healing powers, so maybe one of them can heal him.
Perhaps.
Because otherwise, I don't feel like he's gonna survive that.
He's a very small boy with no powers, and he was slammed into the wall by a very giant man.
Yes. And that guy, Tarukas, he was kind of wearing almost had like the Viking helmet thing going on. He forgot to say the things like metal silver overdrive and light magnetism overdrive.
Yes, he did say those things during his fight with Tarukas and Bluford. More so with Bluford.
Yeah, the Tonpetty part was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, once they were like, this is Robert Ito Speedwagon, I knew they were going to go in. I was like, all right, they're going in heavy on the music references here, but then they're like, this guy is named Tonpetty after Tom Petty. I was like, okay.
It just was funny because the guy was like Indian, right?
Yeah,
And he had that name.
Yeah.
That's why it's partially why it's silly. It had said that room, the booby-trapped room, that Tarukas had previously killed 48 men in there.
Yeah, so he's pretty adept at knowing the ins and outs of that room. So I think that's why they were extra afraid that JoJo was gonna be like screwed in that fight.
And then I guess because it was so tight on JoJo's neck, he couldn't breathe properly, and that's why he couldn't use the Haman to get free.
Which is wild because I feel like not Bluford, Tarukas is an even larger man than JoJo, so it's like, how is he having such an easy time? I know he doesn't need to breathe because he's undead or whatever, but I would think it would at least have caused him some discomfort, and especially when he was alive and killing people. But then again, I'm not sure if the zombie thralls can feel pain or not. I think maybe they can't actually. So maybe it just didn't bother him at all. And he's just like, I'm going to take out this kid quick and easy, like.
And then there was like a flashback with Poco where he's being bullied and his sister kind of walks up and the bullies run off and she wants him to stand up for himself. She slaps him. Like, I guess to not be scared of getting hurt, but she doesn't want him to be too afraid to do something. Like he's almost like he's so scared he can't make a decision or move.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately why he decides to climb through that window. He wants to help, and then, like you said, he doesn't want his sister killed. Although we don't know if she's still alive at this point, because them dudes have been all over the town, I would assume.
Yes, they very much have. I honestly don't even remember if like Dio takes out the whole town or not. I mean, that would be a spoiler anyways. So I'm not totally sure. It sounds like it's a pretty small town, so it could be possible, given how easily and quickly Dio has been gathering up his minions. Next week, we will be discussing the next two episodes, Sorrowful Discusser and Bloody Battle, JoJo and Dio. And those will be the 7th and 8th episodes. So after that, we will have one more episode of part 1, and then we'll be moving on to part 2, which is called Battle Tendency. Thank you so much for listening in. If you'd like to help support the podcast, it would be really cool if you could follow, subscribe, leave us a review, etc. If you're watching this later on YouTube, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. All that would be swell. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'll be the roundabout. Goodbye.
Bye.